Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by a guy who may or may not have Evan McPherson as number one on his list. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Cannot confirm or deny that. You're just gonna have to wait till the draft, man. How you doing?
Yes, I'm doing good. Things are good, Kyle. This is, I think, this is kind of peak off-season content. I think these lists.
Yeah, exactly. You got to come up with content to come, to get through the last few weeks before we get into our division previews. Exciting stuff, though. I think that this will be interesting.
Yeah, this should be fun. Just to set the stage as what we're about to do, we're going to do draft style because you know how we love our drafts here on the Sideline podcast. Our draft style of every player who is 25 or under. And the criteria we're viewing it as, if it was an actual draft, if you were starting a team from scratch, you could actually get these guys. What order would you take them in? So, rookie, they would get a rookie deal for 4 years. Positional value comes into play. All of that stuff. Sort of the most valuable young players.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna draft all these guys, and I think that this was hard. First of all, because I had to remember who's all 25 and under.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then I had to go through the entire list. And then I think there's some spicy takes here.
I had a really hard time with this list. There's maybe 35 guys that I'm just throwing my hands up. I don't know where to put you. I don't know what to do. So I think the first few were easy, but after that, it got really difficult.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. Do you want to go first, or how do you want to do this?
Sure, I'll go first. Someone in the chat says, came here to make sure A.J. Dillon gets his respect. Might be disappointed, but we will see. Let's start off. Number one, to me, first pick here, give me Joe Burrow, who is 25, as my number one selection. And also, that's the criteria. If you're 25 as of today, that's our cutoff. Joe Burrow, just took his team to a Super Bowl, had put up unbelievable statistics last year. I think that he's really good. I am banging the drum that I am a believer in Burrow. If I could take any of these guys, I would take him.
No debates here. This was PFF's number one quarterback. He proved it. He led his team to the Super Bowl. He's going to get even better because he's going to have better offensive line, better players around him. And this guy looks like I think this guy is a future MVP. I think this guy's a stud. And absolutely. This is a guy who should be number one or number two on the list, depending on how you feel. I know there's, some stands of the next guy I think that's going to be on this list, but I think
A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, exactly. I think Burrow has definitely proven himself to be that kind of guy.
Yeah. Again, Burrow, incredible. And if it's a quarterback, I'm going to take you early on. I don't know if we have to spend forever on him. Do you want to just go to number two?
Well, I guess let's just tie these two in together because I don't think the top two in this are very exciting. So Mac Jones, no, I'm just kidding. Not Mac Jones. Justin Herbert, number two. This is very obvious. There's not much else we could say about Justin Herbert. If you go by, just pure talent and ability, you could probably definitely argue him number one overall. I think he's going to win an MVP sometime in his career. I think he's got the skill set to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Burrow's just proven it a little more. And, that's just kind of how things work, unfortunately. I think Herbert is going to be one of those guys. I think he's going to hit that level and be one of those guys for multiple years. He just hasn't hit it yet, so that's why he's number two. But, if someone said, I want Justin Herbert number one because of his skill set, the arm talent, some of the stuff that he has that, Burrow's good at a lot of things. He doesn't have that cannon. If you said I want Herbert because of that, I'm not going to argue it.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think that's well said. Burrow, I think, has accomplished more. I think Burrow had the better season last year. He had the better results last year, certainly. Even forget about the postseason stuff and the team success. Just himself, his advanced statistics were better than Herbert's, but not by much. And you're right, Herbert has the elite arm talent and just he's a physical freak. I mean, back when everyone thought that he was going to be a bust when he got drafted, the one thing people kept saying is, well, he does have all the great physical tools. So, like, with that being said, the fact that he's proven this and still has those physical tools, again, either one of these guys you'd feel very happy to have on your team.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I said, I don't think there's too much debate with this. I guess the debate is just who would you rather have? I don't know. There's just it's almost like it doesn't seem tangible when you talk about Joe Burrow. It's just like, oh, he's got that X factor. He's got that, he's got that dog in him sort of thing. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you know what? I love Joe Burrow because he has that in him. And I'm excited to see these two go at it. And I think, the next 10 years of football is going to be these two guys going back and forth.
Yeah, right. I think I agree. And I think there are still very much tangible things that Burrow does well as well. Yeah. Also, just to answer a question, someone said, are you both building the same team? It's not really building a team. It's just these are the highest player. Think about like a big board. That's the way I would describe it. But yeah, let's move on to number 3. Why don't we? Going to stick with a quarterback here. Yeah. Although some people might say it's a running back. Give me Lamar at number 3. I still am a big believer in Lamar Jackson. He might not be that tier 1 quarterback that I was banging the drum on him being early on, but he still is clearly at least a tier 2 quarterback, I think, and has shown flashes of being the best quarterback in football. He's won an MVP, and he's younger than Burrow too, which is always one of those weird statistics to bring up. Lamar Jackson is just, again, what can be said about Lamar that hasn't already been said? He's still another guy you'd love to build a franchise around.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I think this is a clear-cut number 3, too. You take the 3 quarterbacks off the board, then the draft gets interesting. I think there's a little bit of a drop to the next quarterback I think is going to be drafted on this list. But it's one of those weird things where you have to do a double and triple take every time you see his age. He's still, 24, turning 25 next year or something like that? Or he turns 26, I think, in January. I mean, the sky's still the limit for the guy. I think people are kind of over it. And you know what? There are some limitations, I think, to his game. But if it's going to be between drafting a new quarterback or taking Lamar Jackson, I'd take Lamar Jackson 10 times out of 10. I know what his skill set is. I know his skill set can be successful. And like you said, he's an MVP. And I think at the very minimum, he's a high-end tier 2 quarterback. At the max, I think he can be a tier 1 MVP candidate too. I'm rolling with Lamar. I'm a big fan still.
Yeah, and the best receiver he's had this whole time has been a tight end, Mark Andrews. So, who Mark Andrews, great tight end, but, the best actual wide receiver has been Hollywood Brown. So he hasn't had necessarily the best offensive core around him as well, I would say. Although, you could argue offense has, been built around his strengths with all those tight ends and stuff, but still.
Yeah, he's going to have a good team. It's going to be healthy next year. And, I think it's almost underrated just how good he was to start last season until his injury. I mean, he was kind of carrying a team that was just beaten to shreds. I mean, he took that team to deep, to the point where they were a playoff potential team. And I think he's going to be in that spot again as an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I think I agree. Let's move on. Number 4. So where are we going here?
All right, let's get spicy.
Okay.
I think this guy's going to win a defensive player. Like if I'm taking the number 1 defenseman, who I think of this group's going to win a defensive player of the year first, it's Max Crosby. I'm going Max Crosby here. I think he's a terrific defensive end. He's got Chandler Jones at his side now, which is only going to help him. He was PFF's number 2 graded defensive end last season. And I mean, you cannot watch a Raiders game and not say you love this guy. This guy competes his ass off, first of all. He's a terrific pass rusher. He's terrific in the run. I think he does everything really well. I think he's got the complete package as far as defensive end and is still 24. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's going to win a defensive player of the year at some point in his career. I love watching Max Crosby play. He's one of my favorites. And is it a reach? Maybe, but I don't care. I love the kid.
Yeah, we have a chat saying Kyle has arrived. The spicy takes are all the way here. I'm sure the Raiders fans will be very happy about this one. I love Max Crosby. I had him at 19 on my list, so we're definitely a bit of a different wavelength off. But again, part of that is how I view the pass rush position, which is a whole other conversation for another day. Max Crosby was incredible last year. Max Crosby did a great job at generating pressure, which is, it's weird. Early in his career, he seemed like a high sack guy, knocking a ton of pressure. It's kind of flipped last year. And I think part of it is just him getting bigger and stronger. He's always been such a great technician with his hands. Now that he's, strong enough to kind of pull off these moves, you're right. He absolutely is a great player. when you said, someone who's going to win a Defensive Player of the Year award, I have to be honest. There are about 2 or 3 guys I was thinking about where you're going with, and you went with none of them, though. So
Yeah.
Here's my question: he's great. Is he better than Nick Bosa? Is he better than Derwin James, who are some guys who are also on this list? I think that's Micah Parsons. I think there's other questions to throw out here. Not the question isn't is Max Crosby great, but is he better than some of these other guys?
Right now, I would say he's better than Nick Bosa. Now, I think there's still potential that Nick Bosa gets even better. Nick Bosa becomes one of those guys too. That's a defensive player that you can. And let's just compare those two because I mean it's a lot harder to compare it to a Derwin James, obviously. But I think Bosa would be the one that people would say, oh, it should be Bosa, or even Rashod Gary. Both are both terrific pass rushers, but I think what he supplies to the run game too. I mean, he's a do-it-all kind of guy for this team right now. And even I just think that he just does everything so well. I think he reads screens very well too, which is an underrated aspect of a defensive end. And I just think right now he's the complete package where I think Bosa and Gary both get there eventually. Right now, I've seen Crosby be that complete package and be that complete player. Like I said, grading wise, there was one defensive end in all of football who was better than Max Crosby last year. And that was Myles Garrett, who everybody kind of thinks is the best defensive end in football. He's right there with him.
Don't tell Steelers fans that.
Yeah, exactly. He's matching him pound for pound, basically. The guys he graded in front of were TJ Watt, Rashod Gary, DeMarcus Lawrence, Von Miller, Nick Bosa, Marcus Davenport. I mean, he graded out better than all those guys. So why can't I think he's higher up than them?
No, I think that's fair. I think I'm not going to argue against Max Crosby. I think that the difference between all these guys are very close. I guess here's the one thing I would say about Max Crosby, maybe why I docked him a little bit, and maybe this is unfair to do with young guys, is that it did take him a little bit longer to break out. And the question is this just truly who he is? And is the theory that, when he got bigger and stronger, he was able to pull off this stuff? Is that the case? Or did he kind of get a little bit lucky this year as well? There are guys who have multiple successful years. But again, I'm not going to argue too hard on it. Max Crosby is incredible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he develops. Like I said, I think this next year is going to be so easy for him going with Chandler Jones too. Like he should be able to feast a lot more, I think too. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this works out, but I just think he's one of the most exciting defensive players to watch, I think.
Yeah, especially in the passing game with Jones opposite him. That should be interesting. Let's move on. All right, so interesting list so far. I'm going to stick with the quarterbacks right here. I still think there's at least one, fringe top 10 guy who maybe is better than top 10 on this list. Give me Kyler here at number 5. Again, Kyler was an MVP candidate last year at a certain point. Kyler is someone who, if the quarterback position is the most important position, and I can get a quarterback that has potential to be an MVP, I'm going to take a swing at that.
Yeah, I had him on my list too. I had him very high up. I had one more guy ahead of him, but at the same time, I agree with everything with Kyler. Obviously, we want to see it be put together for an entire, 16 games, which is I think the biggest question with him because he's so small. I think it's the worry with him from basically since he was drafted. But when he's on the field, he's terrific. And when he's on the field healthy, he's even better. There's a lot of good stuff from Kyler, and I think he's going to continue to pan out and be a terrific player.
Yeah, and it also helps when he has Hopkins as well, of course. But, again, what quarterback doesn't benefit from a great wide receiver? So, yeah, again, we don't spend forever on these quarterbacks just because we did talk about them only 2 weeks ago when we did our top starting quarterback rankings. So, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about Murray. Do you want to move on to number 5 or number 6, excuse me?
Yeah, I think we just about covered it. Like you said, we did this just a couple weeks ago, so that's good with me. Number 5 on my list, I'm getting here at number, 6?
6, yeah.
I am going to take Jair Alexander. I think for my money, he's the best corner, maybe the best man-to-man corner in football, if not the best cornerback in general. He wasn't healthy last year, which obviously might have hurt his stock a little bit, but at the same time, he's lockdown. He's a complete lockdown guy. I think he's terrific for this team, and he got a contract that, basically has shown the Packers' faith in him at that position. I think is a hugely important position, and I think he's going to be terrific for the next 5 years.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who I put him at 9, but and I'm saying that he's probably could have put him up above a couple other guys. Coming off an injury last year, so we didn't see him that much last year. But like you said, this is the guy who you can make an argument for is the best cornerback in football. So the fact that he's there in a premium position with, still so young, he just got paid by the Packers. Love Jair. Again, big fan of him.
Yeah. It's the Yeah, I mean, I just think overall, I think that I think a lot of teams, if they said they needed to draft a cornerback and everybody was available, I think he goes number one on a lot of lists.
Yeah, just in general, like whatever
Yeah.
age.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on then. Let's go to a guy who I'm sure Kyle's going to be very upset he did not get the draft. I'm running the quarterbacks through here. I put quarterbacks at the top of my list. Give me Mac Jones at number 7. Again, positional value matters so much. I thought Mac Jones was really good last year. Like Mac Jones had a good rookie season. He was like a above average starter as a rookie. That's a lot better than some of these other guys who, I think he had a better rookie season than Kyler did. Maybe not a better rookie season than Herbert, but like he was really good as a rookie. And again, the positional value of a quarterback, I'm going to take it at 7.
Yeah, I had him at 16. I still have him on my list. I don't know if I draft him that high just because I like some of these guys that are still on the list. But at the same time, if you're prioritizing quarterbacks, I think he's the next quarter. He's the only other quarterback I have on my list, by the way. I don't know if you're going to have another guy up, but I think he's
The
probably the next guy.
disrespect to Davis Mills.
I know, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, I think that he would be the next guy right now. He's at least proven on the football field that he can be a starter in this league and hang in this league and probably be a top 16 quarterback in the NFL. The other guys haven't proven that yet, and I think that's why he gets drafted here. Slim Mac pictures came out this past week at the training camp stuff. He's looking slim. I'm liking what I'm seeing about this offseason. We're ready to go. Patriots fans are excited, and I'm excited for year 2 of Mac, and we'll see how he continues to develop as a rookie on his rookie deal.
Is that a good thing, though? I feel like Jones performs well as a chubby quarterback.
Well, I mean, if he's good chubby, you got to imagine if he's in shape, it's going to be even better, right?
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he needs to get fatter. But would fat Mac Jones perform well?
Just get huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I got to think this has to do nothing but help.
Yeah. And again, just to clarify, it's not necessarily, we're taking positional value into account. I'm not necessarily saying he's better at his respective position than some of these other guys, just that I would rather have him from a T-boning perspective. Let's move on. Number 8, where are you going?
I'll take Parsons here, Micah Parsons. Another guy who I think is going to win the Defensive Player of the Year sometime in his career. He's another guy where, you could argue a couple other defensive players with me, but I just like his versatility. I think that he's going to continue to develop in coverage and eventually be that all-around linebacker who can cover guys out of the backfield, stop the run. He's already an elite pass rusher, if not one of the best in the game, actually. I think once he becomes that, jack of, that Swiss Army knife kind of linebacker who can do a little bit of everything and do it all at a really high level to elite level, I think he becomes that, one of the most dangerous defensive players in football. And I think he's already close to being that. So I'll take Parsons here.
Yeah, I mean, again, Parsons is what he was able to do as a rookie was incredible. Parsons was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation as a first-year player, and there's only reason to believe he could get better. I mean, he's so explosive. His speed, whether it's being an off-ball linebacker or an edge rusher, just it can overwhelm offenses.
Yeah, and it was just so impressive to see him jump on the field almost immediately and make impact plays. Obviously, that first game, it was a little bit of a lesson against Brady, game 1, but I thought he held his own more than enough in that first game of the season against a really tough offense to go up against. And then he just continued to get better and better. He continued to progress. And all of a sudden, just like that, it was like 3 weeks in, it's like, this guy's the best defensive player on this team by far. This is who everyone has to game plan against. It was crazy how quickly he rose to the occasion when linebacker historically is one of the hardest positions to adjust to.
Right. Yeah, I remember that first game, and I remember making a video after that first game, like once the All-22 came out, and I said, like, he was actually pretty good in this game. Like, he had a couple of low-light plays in it, but other than that, he was actually had a good game. That video did not do well at the time. I think has aged better. I also like this comment. Kellen Mond going number 9. That much we know. Now, how did you get my list there? How did you find that?
Yeah. Do you have it leaked in the background like the Orlando Magic or something? What's going on here?
Yeah. That might be it. Maybe I pulled a Jerry Jones and just put it in front of the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Parsons terrific. We don't have to spend much more time on that. Who you got next?
Yeah, I got someone who, I'm going to be honest, I did not realize was 25 until someone put it in the chat. So thank you, chat, for helping me out. Give me Marlon Humphrey here at number 9, who turns 26 in a couple months. So he just makes the cutoff here. Will not be 25 next year. But again, did not have his best year last year, but someone who's an elite level corner, who's a top 5 corner getting him on this list at a position of need, that's what I like about him.
Yeah, I mean, I have him 12. I still think he's terrific. I think he's a terrific number one corner. I think he's going to be really good for years to come. There's a couple of guys I like more, but I can't really argue against it. I probably have him, if I were to do corner rankings, I probably have him in that tier 2 ranking, right? I probably have him at that next group of guys, but I definitely think he can get up into that tier 1 territory with the Jalen Ramseys, with the Jair Alexanders, with the Trey Whites. I think he could be in that category soon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the thing about Humphrey is, I mean, it's tough because like part of it is like he didn't have his best year last year, so that's kind of the thing. But corners just in general are going to have fluky years. They're going to have good years and bad years just because it's a versatile position that so much is dependent on the situation around you. The other thing is he had to play the Bengals. Like he had to go up against Jamar Chase. So it's like that alone, like, yeah, he got burned by Jamar Chase. Who didn't get burned by Jamar Chase? So that also, I think, maybe hurt his season, which, other guys don't have to do that.
Not to mention, like, everybody on that defense was hurt, which doesn't help too.
Right. Yeah, that also a factor when he's asking a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I have him pretty high on my list too, top half. He's a terrific corner. Ready to move on?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Number 10, excuse me. Where are you going?
All right, I'll take him off the list now. Let's go Nick Bosa. Another terrific pass rusher. I feel like I'm getting good value here with the position. And just the placement of this draft. And I mean, he's terrific. I mean, there's not much else you can say. I think he needs to improve in his run game a little bit, but for the most part, he's as complete a package as it gets. And I think he's going to get even better. And there's going to be a point probably in the next few years where he's debated as the best edge rusher in the league. And I completely see that trajectory for him. So I think he's well on his way to be one of the best in the game.
Yeah, it's funny because we didn't, he's been banged up, right? So we haven't gotten to see him as much as we've gotten to see some other guys since that incredible rookie year. But that rookie year was just so good, and it's he was such a dominant force, and has still, when we've seen him, has still been a dominant force. So that's kind of the thing you like about Bosa. I had him at number 14 on my list, only a little bit lower due to positional value more than anything. There's other guys who I like, but I'm with you. I think that what Bosa has done is, he's been, in the conversation of defensive player of the year kind of guys. So he is kind of that dark horse defensive player of the year every year, it seems.
So you had Bosa over Crosby.
I did, yes.
And is it just projection based basically, or do you think he's the better player?
Well, I guess I don't think there's a clear jump between either one of them. I guess I would say, I would probably put Bosa as the better player, personally. I'd probably put him as the better. I think that he's had a higher ceiling. When Bosa is on, I think he's better than Max Crosby. And I do think Max Crosby, I feel bad because I have to talk bad about a guy who I like. There was a bit of beating up on bad competition, I thought, last year with Crosby when that happened. Not to say that's not impressive, but that did happen.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but I still think he rose to the occasion in some of the biggest games too and came up big. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate if someone said Bosa's better. I just like Crosby a little bit more.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. And I would also throw in, we've seen multiple of these kind of seasons from Nick Bosa. We've seen one of these seasons from Max Crosby, so that also factors in.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's go to number 11.
Number 11 on the board is going to be number 6 on my board. So we're getting some differences here, although, again, would have been 7 if I didn't forget about Marlon Humphrey's age. Number 11, I'm sticking with corners. So I got a bunch of quarterbacks, and now I'm going a lot of cornerbacks. I'm going A.J. Tyrel. Give me Tyrel Island here. A guy who was, again, is he in that elite corner tier? He might be. If he didn't play for Atlanta, if he played for Dallas, we'd be talking about him as an all-pro. Or wasn't he even, I forget what he was last year, but A.J. Tyrell is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he is really good. He was almost single-handedly carrying that Atlanta defense, which was just abysmal. I have him 13 on my list, so I agree he's one of the top half guys. I also had him right behind Humphrey, and I think he's well on his way, once again, to be one of those lockdown guys, premier position players. I think he's really good. And like you said, he might be in that class already. he's just on a lousy defense, and it's so hard to
Mhm.
it's so hard to judge him when he's on one of the worst defenses in football everywhere else. Like there's 8
Mhm.
bad starters on that team right now.
Right.
But
Mhm.
I mean, you look at what he does though, and he's consistently churning in good years year after year. He was great last season, and I think at some point that he's going to be probably, if we redid this list next year, he might be number 2 or 3, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, and, again, just to clarify, he was a second team All-Pro already, so, once I said he could be we'd be talking about him as an All-Pro, I remembered, oh, yeah, he second team. Yeah, Tyrel is someone who I think is incredible, and, like you said, in a very bad situation and is still doing, great work, with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. I just hope that they give him some talent sooner or later. I hope some of these guys work out, and then all of a sudden this is a better team. He needs to be put on a better team where he can be put in the spotlight as one of the elite guys. He's already showing it. It's just that there's so much, the team is going to get so torched no matter what.
Yeah, and again, some people are wondering like why him over like a Jamar Chase. I just think that I think I can make a stronger argument for Tyrel being the best corner in football than I could for Jamar Chase being the best wide receiver in football. Is kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, well, let's move on. Number 12. Where are you going?
All right, everybody calm down about Jamar Chase because I'm taking Justin Jefferson next. I had number 9 on my list.
Oh,
Listen, I think you can make the argument that Chase or Jefferson is the number 1 guy in football. I think you could argue, but you can argue ad nauseum about which guy is better. I'm just going to take Jefferson because 2 years in a row, he's been absolutely unreal. He's been the guy at that position. He's been that guy on that team. He's been explosive. I think he's been amazing. And I'm taking Jefferson here as the top guy.
I respect the take for sure. I had Jefferson at 8. I had Chase one spot ahead, so I think they're close, and I actually considered that as well. Jefferson has the way that his game has evolved in these 2 years has been incredible as well. I thought his first year was a lot of playing off the play action over the middle stuff. The second year, I think he really came into his own, being able to burn guys down the field along with still being able to be this incredible route runner that he is. Jefferson is someone who I could see us in a couple of years talking about as the best wide receiver in football. As the chat seems to be getting invaded, I'll have to work on that a little bit. Sorry about that, but yeah, Jefferson is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like anytime he wanted to run downfield, he was wide open, right? Like every time, and it just seemed like he had 10 yards of space. People were talking about how great a season Kirk Cousins was, and it was really, how amazing Justin Jefferson is too, has to add to that. It was open constantly, made it easy on his quarterback. I think he's an elite level guy, and you really could argue he's the number 1 guy in the league right now. I think it's a real debate to have. If he was a little bit taller, I think he'd be without a doubt, but at the same time, I think he's really good at what he does, and he's one of the best.
Yeah, no, again, I'm not going to argue against Justin Jefferson. I had him well earlier. I think we both had him probably earlier than 12, just kind of the way that the list has fallen. Just a fantastic player in his own right. But let me go with his LSU teammate here at number 13. Let me take Jamar Chase, who I did have one spot ahead of Justin Jefferson. I think the argument for Chase is that the most important thing for a receiver to do is when on the outside, being able to burn guys down the field if there's only a single safety deep coverage. Teams just at a certain point had to say, we can't leave him one-on-one. He got that respect. I think Jamar Chase, from a rookie too, so you kind of expect him to have his career keep going forward. I'm not really sure how he can do that, but I think there's maybe some ways he can become a more complete receiver. I think that Jamar Chase, I don't know if he'll ever have the statistical year he just had, because the statistical year he just had was incredible. Teams will start playing him with safety help over the top, but I think he'll still have plenty of counters to that. Jamar Chase, number 7 on my board, goes 13 on this list.
Yeah, I think the argument would be that Chase's physical profile probably allows him to have a higher ceiling than Jefferson, even though Jefferson's been amazing these first 2 seasons. I think that's the argument you could have, and I completely see it. Chase was amazing in year 1. I expect him to do amazing things and continue to be an all-pro level wide receiver. Yeah, I think you could go back and forth with these guys because of the 2 skill sets, and I think he's going to prove it once again this season. I guess I'm probably honestly just knocking it because it was year 1, and I want to see it one more time where I've seen it 2 years now with Jefferson.
Yeah. Again, it's crazy. Jefferson, breaks the rookie record for most yards, and then Chase comes along and breaks that. He had an extra game to do it, sure, but I believe he broke it without that extra game, so it didn't matter. But yeah, I totally like. I think that that's reasonable. One crazy thing I notice about Chase, but it always surprises me. Guess how old, or excuse me, not how old. Guess how tall Jamar Chase is.
6'3"?
He's 6 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the way he goes up and makes catches, despite being just a 6 foot. And he's not that. He's like his 40 time isn't that great either. He's just the definition of a guy who goes out and like is a good football player.
Yeah, exactly. You just find. I mean, I guess Jefferson is taller than him. It's kind of crazy to think about. It
Yeah, by
doesn't look
1
that
inch.
way on the field. I mean, Chase looks huge on the field compared to them.
Yeah, it's just his contested catch ability is like it's like Mike Evans' ability, and he's 5 inches shorter.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, it's incredible stuff what he's able to do. He's definitely one of my favorite players to watch too.
Yeah, they're both great. Vikings fans and Bengals fans should both be very happy. Number 14, where are you going?
Yeah, so I had those guys 9 and 10 on my list. I'll go to number 11 on my list. I'll take. Is this the first one? Yes, it is. I'll take the number 1 offensive lineman in this draft, Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs consistently been one of the best tackles in the league. Obviously, playing with Brady, I think, helps a little bit, but at the same time, he's excelled and he's one of the best in the league already. And I think he's going to continue to be one of the best in the league. And I mean, there's just nothing else we could say about it. I think he's terrific. It was so interesting, too, because I just remember that draft so vividly. It's like, okay, there's 5 first-round offensive tackles, and I think the Bucks had the 4th or 5th pick in of the like teams that needed offensive tackles. And they take this guy, and it's like, okay, this guy has all the athletic tools to be the best of this bunch, and he's ended up being the best of the bunch by far right now, and I think he's going to continue to be that way. He's a terrific player.
Yeah, and that's one of those where, I didn't notice at the time, but going back and looking at sort of those advanced stats, he performed very well in college and with, had stats that, in hindsight, I should have seen would translate to the NFL level. So he's one of those guys who, that works for. And you're right, he was the 4th offensive tackle taken and is already a first-team All-Pro in just his 2nd year. He was also next on my list. I had him at number 10.
Yeah. I mean, he's just the complete package of that position. And then when you add the athletic ability that he has, I mean, his ceiling is sky high.
He can jump out of a pool.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, this guy should have been talked about like a Penei Sewell type, right?
Looking back at it in hindsight, yeah, probably. I mean, clearly now, knowing what we know now. And he can play right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he has the speed, he has the strength, and like you said, all of the stuff put together. I mean, it's building a linebacker or an offensive tackle out of the lab, basically.
Yeah, no, he's been a lot of fun to watch as a Buccaneers fan myself. Number 15, I'm going with the $100 million man. Give me Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns, who I think has played well. Again, going to corners, I did not expect to pick 4 corners in the top 15. That's just how my board fell. Ward is someone who I think has, at times, listen, cornerback is a bit of a shaky position. He hasn't been this elite top-of-the-line guy game after game after game the way that you might see like the Jamar Chase do it. It's a different position. But I do think Denzel Ward has played elite in, certain, at times for Cleveland. That's why I have him here at 15.
I can't hate it. I had him here. Where was he? Oh, I had him at 21, but at the same time, like I still think he's a really good corner. If you're valuing quarterback, I think he's probably the next guy on the list. Let's see. Yeah, I do have him as the next guy on my list. So yeah, I mean, if you have him next on your list, I can't really hate it. I just, he gets burned a little too much for me. And I think that he's probably the next tier down below those first few guys. And then Alexander's the top tier, obviously. But at the same time, I think he's terrific, and I think he's been a good pick for the Browns.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, it's cornerback, so there is a bit of positional variance I'm just okay with. I think the way I view corners probably is I care a little bit more about what's your upside as opposed to what's your average year, just because like an average year for a corner is just so different depending on the year, like depending on like the situation around you, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess who would be I had one more guy, I guess, on my list that could be debated, but at the same time, we'll see if he ends up getting drafted. So I won't bring up the name yet. But His fans are very passionate about him. And yeah, I mean, I think Ward translates as a better player. It's just we haven't really quite seen the complete package from him yet.
Yeah, I think that that's reasonable. Yeah, I think that again, I could probably talk into moving him down a few spots. Like I said, there's a lot of good guys 25 and under, so it is a bit of a tough situation. Let's move on. Let's go to number 16. Where are you going?
14 on my list. Let's dip back into the wide receiver well. I'll take DK Metcalf. Metcalf
Okay.
obviously is a physical talent, and obviously has the complete package as far as that goes. I have him, probably the tier below Jefferson and Chase if I were to rate wide receivers. But at the same time, like if you said that if someone came back in time 5 years from now and said DK Metcalf is the best wide receiver alive, I'm not gonna be shocked by it. He has everything. He has all the tools necessary to be that kind of guy. He has all the tools necessary to be that kind of player. Obviously, he's gonna have a tough year, I think, this year with the Drew Lock at quarterback. But he could be one of those guys that his quarterback doesn't matter, and he's gonna get his numbers because that's how talented he is. Metcalf's a terrific player.
What you don't think the Geno Smith era could be a good thing for him?
No. No.
All right. Yeah, probably fair. I can't really hit on you that much. Yeah, I mean, Metcalf is someone who, he is that guy where for a wide receiver, you just take the guy who has physical tools and hope he can figure out the position. And it worked out for Seattle. Metcalf is someone who I think has like you said, the upside is certainly there. He only has more to improve. The sky's the limit for Metcalf. I did have another receiver another receiver higher than him. I had a few players higher than him. He was 22 on my board. He goes at 16. But again, I can certainly see the argument.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think he's going to be one of those guys. And I think it could be something that, yeah, I mean, I think that the physical profile of him translates to this guy's going to be one of the best in the league for years to come. I think he'll continue to develop and get better because it still seems like he's kind of learning the position a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, sure. I totally can understand that. Let's move on here. Number 17 on my list. I'm going back to defensive backs. I'm picking all the defensive backs this one, Kyle. Picking a guy who, an extension of his name is when healthy because he's never healthy. But when he is, he's incredible. Derwin James, number 17, actually was picked 17th in his actual draft. So interestingly enough, Derwin James, the 17th best player, 25 and under, someone who, again, what's more to be said about him when he's on the field? Incredible ability to come in and make a tackle. He can cover well. He can make big plays. Checks off all the boxes. The only issue with Derwin James really is the fact that he, gets hurt a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of why I had him just off my list. I had him on the honorable mentions. I think he's a terrific talent, and I think he's going to be there. But at the same time, it's just so hard to guess because he hasn't been on the field enough for me. His best quality is still pass rushing, which I don't love from safety sometimes. But I think the difference between him and a guy like Jamal Adams is I think he covers a lot better, and he's proven to be that kind of guy. And I think he can be kind of that all-around safety. But I do think that when he's on the field, he's terrific. I just want to see him on the field a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. If he had played every game and you've seen his play not dip, where would you think you put him on the list?
I mean, inside the top 20, without a doubt. I guess positional value of a safety ranks him a little bit lower.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's just without some of that playing time, I think it's tough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Number 18, where are you going?
Let's go. I'll dip back into the offensive line. I'll go Michael Onyenwu. This is a guy who's continually been one of the best guards, offensive linemen in the league. I mean, one of the biggest draft steals of all time, I think, as far as a 6th-round pick, or at least of recent memory. As a 6th-round pick and just translating to an almost immediate all-pro level player, I think he's one of those guys. He's going to be thrusted into the full-time starting position at guard, I think. And I think it's a good fit for him. I think he's a perfect fit for that position. And yeah, I mean, I think he's a really talented player.
Yeah, Onyenwu, another very good player who also made my list. Although I'm very much looking forward to, a fantastic player, very much looking forward to in a couple of years when Bill Belichick trades him to the Buccaneers for a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean that definitely is that's definitely going to happen though, because you look at
Yeah.
the history: Shaq Mason, Joe Thuney, Logan Mankins. We trade our guards. We don't keep them beyond their rookie contract. But he's a terrific guard, so I don't even care.
But this is why, right? Because Belichick finds like Michael Onwenu, who no one had heard of, unless you're like super into like draft stuff, or like you went to the school that he played for. All of a sudden comes out and is just like, you're right. He's been an incredible find for the New England Patriots.
Cole Strange is going to be on this list next year, guaranteed.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah. Any final thoughts on Onwenu, or want to move to 19?
Let's keep it rolling. I think we got all that.
Keeping it rolling. Let's go to 19, who is number 15 on my board. Give me Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons, a guy who got a ton of pressure, even from the inside last year. Definitely a guy who can rush the passer from the inside. We could be talking about him in a couple of years as that Chris Jones type. No one's going to be Aaron Donald, but as one of those guys who can get pressure from the inside, along with still does a great job at being able to, being able to help out in the running game as well. He is someone who I think a lot of the Titans defensive line success came from both their secondary and also I think Jeffrey Simmons causing havoc from the inside.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where it's like I want to put him higher on my list, but it's like I don't have room for him just because as a defensive tackle. But I did have him. I had him number 20. Like you said, he's a terrific player. It's weird that he's not as great against the run as he is against the pass as an interior defensive lineman, but that's okay because he's really good as a pass rusher. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you said. I think he changed that defense a lot by being able to create pressure from the middle. And this was a defensive line that I thought struggled for multiple years, and then they were looking to figure out that position, and they were able to find it by putting him in there, and he was ready to go.
Yeah, and with someone like Simmons, I think that there's still time for him to grow. Like I don't think he is who he is as a player yet.
Yeah, I mean, he has all the physical tools. He's about to turn 25, but at the same time, everything about him you love. He's another one of those guys where it's like he just pops off on TV, right? Every time you watch him, it's like, okay, that guy's really good. And I
Right.
think he always comes up with a big play when the defense needs him to.
Yeah, I agree. Very fun to watch. Number 20. Where are you going?
AJ Brown, next receiver I got on my board.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm projecting Metcalf to be better than him long term, but at the same time, if you think Brown's better than Metcalf, I'm not going to argue it. Just because I think he's terrific too, and I think he's another one of those guys. I'm interested to see him outside the Arthur Smith scheme, but I think he mastered that scheme to such a high level that he was just terrific, and I think he's going to be really good at Philadelphia too.
Yeah, it's funny because like when he was drafted, or like really, maybe not. Let's say when he was drafted, but part of how he fit in that Titans offense so well was like, okay, this is the guy who can go over the middle and he can be sort of a slot guy who can occasionally have the downfield stuff. But for the most part, like it's how we view Treylon Burks this year. He also was sort of in the NFL became this elite outside threat that like I don't think people expected him to become. He was number 21 on my list, but he's absolutely. I think AJ Brown is a true number one receiver. I would put that on him. And so him at his age, Philadelphia fans should be very excited about him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, all of these guys I think are number one receivers who are going to be taken here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the physical tools with him are fantastic. Like I said, I just want to see it outside the Smith scheme because I think that's very friendly to wide receivers outside of Julio Jones, who just couldn't stay on the field.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that should be fascinating. Although, again, I don't think that it's necessarily going to be the most difficult scheme in the world in Philadelphia for him to get open. And he can probably do a lot of the same stuff he did in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. 21. We're plowing right along here. I'm going to go with a defensive lineman. I'm going to go with a guy who was an elite defensive lineman last year. So getting him at 21 really just shows the young talent we have at the NFL level. Give me Rashod Gary. Rashod Gary was an elite edge rusher last year. He was really good. I know that his first couple of years weren't great, but also he was kind of a developmental guy when he was drafted. So what he can do and the way that he can play for Green Bay, if you're getting him now, you feel very good about him. And he is someone who I think, again, his advanced statistics were fantastic.
Yeah, I had him 22 on my list. And once, like you said, he did develop a ton last season and really looked the part. It's kind of just crazy how he's able to kind of fit in that role, though. And now this Packers defense is not only talented, it's super young and talented, which is something I feel like we haven't said about the Packers in such a long time. Now they're just this young, talented group that flies around with the football. And it's with Gary, it's with guys like Gary, it's with guys like Alexander. And they added more defensive players in this draft. And I think this defense is going to be absolutely nasty, and he's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. I think that this is something that, he really, the Packers are like a defensive team now. It's very, very bizarre how that happened.
Yeah. And honestly, it might work because you got to think, the floor, at least with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, is probably a top 15, 16 offense at minimum. And I think he's going to continue to be that guy. And then you make your defense absolutely stacked, and he figures it out offensively.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Gary himself as the player?
It's interesting to see because, like you said, he developed a ton last season and obviously came onto the scene. I had one more edge rusher ahead of him, but at the same time, like, how much better can he get? Because he was already, I mean, if you go by just pure pass rushing, I think he was fifth in the league as far as BFF grades, and I think he's going to continue to get even better. I mean, he's just an insane talent.
Yeah, the only concern I think you could have that's fair is the small sample size, but given the way that he, given who he was as a prospect, I'm willing to kind of accept more that he is who he is now because of that. Let's move on. 22. Where are you going?
I'll go Marcus Davenport here. Yeah, I mean, I think that he was the next. I had him at 17. He was the next edge rusher I had on my list. Just seems a little bit more of a complete player to me. Although he's in a scheme right now, I think in New Orleans, where it kind of maximizes his talent because there's just so much talent on that team. But that being said, I thought he was terrific last season, and I think he's going to be continue to be one of those guys. And I mean, just going from you have Cameron Jordan and you had a guy like this, I think it's insane.
Yeah, Davenport's been like sneakily like good for the Saints. I think he's someone who, fantastic run stopper. People don't really pay attention to run stopping edge rushers. That's not something that people focus on, but he has been really good at that and can still rush the passer as well. He's also a guy who I think that his box score stats might not match what his actual talent has been. I'm with you as well. I didn't have him on my list, but he was very high up on the honorable mentions list for me. He's the first guy to go in this draft that I didn't have on my list, but I'm a big fan of Davenport, and he's been fantastic with the Saints.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's one of those guys, and I mean, I think he's just going to continue to get even better, and I think he's going to continue to grow. And having to deal with that Saints defense still is not a cup of tea for any team by the stretch of the imagination right now.
Yeah, no, it isn't, Kyle. Very much not.
Yeah, you like going against that defense twice a year?
No, please. I mean, listen, we take it because we're going to go against Carolina and Atlanta twice a year, so I can't complain. But it's not the most fun.
Yeah, going from that to Atlanta, it's got to be the biggest trip ever. You're going from okay, we have to worry about like 10 different guys making big plays to just don't throw it at AJ Terrell.
Yeah, don't throw it at AJ Terrell or run it at Grady Jarrett, and we will win this game.
Yeah, or we will at least score 35.
Right, I guess so. Yeah, maybe Marcus Mariota will go off against you. Wouldn't be the first time Marcus Mariota went off against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's true. He a Bucks killer? Maybe that's why they got him.
Maybe so. I remember this is a completely off the rails story that I'm going to tell, but I remember it was Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston's first game, and they were playing in Raymond James in Tampa against each other. And so my dad and I were like, oh, this is perfect. Let's go see these two, very hyped up prospects first game. Then maybe 10 years down the line, hope one of them will probably be great. We can tell the story about how we saw their first game. That's a cool thing. Spoiler alert, neither one of them were great. But Marcus Mariota just looked like the next Tom Brady in that game. Just threw for, I think, 4 touchdowns, 400 yards. It was, again, not that impressive. It was against the Buccaneers. But that was not the most fun game to watch live, Kyle.
Yeah, I can't imagine so. Who would have thought by this point that both guys are kind of
Yeah, exactly.
And both starting in the NFC South, not for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Let's move on to next on my list. A guy who, deserves to be higher on this list. This feels wrong, him being here. Fred Warner at number 23, a guy who, again, might be the best linebacker in football. Linebacker isn't the most important position compared to other stuff, but he's done so much good work with that 49ers team. He comes here at 23.
And he was 23 on my board too, coincidentally. But yeah, I mean, it's so hard because he might be someone I draft way higher under normal circumstances, but it's just so hard to project out linebackers. I did take Parsons because I think he's a little more of like a let me throw you wherever I want on the football field and you'll figure out how to be good kind of player. Where I
Uh-huh.
think if you put, if your defense starts with Fred Warner at middle linebacker, you're going to be in good shape because he's terrific at that position.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and he's been a big reason why that Super Bowl run. He was a huge part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's. I mean, there, it just is not surprising that typically good defenses involve good linebackers, even though it's not a position of value. It involves those guys being really good in the middle of the field.
Yeah, that's true. Although I guess you could probably make the argument about any defensive position, right? Like
Yeah,
good
exactly.
defenses
You
typically
can't be
have good
bad at
everything.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. Very good player for San Francisco. 24, your last pick of this draft. Where are you going?
Purely projection here. CeeDee Lamb. Well, not purely projection. He was awesome last season, but I think he's going to be one of those guys and eventually be one of those tier one receivers. I've been on this guy since he was in the draft pool, saying he was the number one receiver of that draft. He's making me look kind of smart, and I think he's going to continue to be great. And I think he's now the number one guy in Dallas, and he's going to continue to be the number one guy in Dallas. And I think he's a terrific wide receiver.
Yeah, well, that is always the goal here on the Sideline Podcast, to look kind of smart. So good to see that
We
working
don't do
out.
it all the time.
No, but I think that with Lamb, I guess my biggest question mark of him, he was not on my list. Did have him in my honorable mentions. I have a lot of honorable mentions. He is someone who I considered, but I think the question with Lamb, and we're going to get an answer, is can he be a number one guy? Because we've seen him as a number two guy and a good number two guy, but this will be the first year we see him for an entire year as a pure number one, and I'm interested in seeing how that works out.
Yeah. I think that's a fair thing. And but at the same time, I think he has the skill set to do it. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Let's move on. Final pick here, 25th and final player who will make the list of the on the sideline 25 or under list. Give me center Creed Humphrey. Was a fantastic center as a rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was 18 on my board. I'm selecting him at 25.
Yeah, another guy I had 25 on my board. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think he's a fantastic player and was amazing as a rookie. And I think he's, if not the best center in football, he's going to be in the conversation already, which says a lot about his skill set.
Yeah, I think again, the one thing you take away from him is that he plays center. Like that's kind of one of those. That's one of his biggest issues.
Yeah, exactly. It's so tough because it's positional value, and it's the same thing with linebacker. But at the same time, you're not gonna find any better centers out there right now. And this was kind of viewed as like a interesting pick, I thought, by Kansas City at the time, and he's just immediately plugged in and been that guy. Just they've rebuilt that offensive line so quickly, so well, and he's a key part of it.
Yeah, it should be really. I mean, yeah, Kansas. It is crazy how like they said we're going to create and get an entire new offensive line, and successfully did that. And a big part of it was being able to find a steal in Creed Humphrey. So that's our list, top 25. Let us know in the chat as we have a few minutes left. Who were you disappointed did not make our list? Three guys who were on my personal list did not make our list. I had Kyle Pitts at 20, Jesse Bates at 23, and Brian Burns at 24.
Yeah, I had Burns as probably my number one honorable mention, and he would have been 26 for me. I had Montez Sweat as also an honorable mention just off, and Chase Young. And then I also had, who did I have here? I had Trayvon Diggs 24. I just put him on there. I understand the statistical value of everything, but at the same time, he makes plays. He makes big plays, and I think that he also deserves a little bit of credit for that.
Yeah, I had him on my honorable mentions. I agree. It's interesting to see, I think we probably do a whole podcast on Trayvon Diggs and the uniqueness that he is as a player, how much of his interceptions are earned, how much of it is luck. There's some of both. Obviously gave up a ton of yards, but he's someone who definitely I could see as, an interesting option. Couple other guys to talk about. No Jonathan Taylor, no Christian McCaffrey on this list.
Yeah, and I think they're honestly just, they are punished by basically the the positional value of the running back position. I think that they're talented. Christian McCaffrey, obviously the big thing is health, which I probably would have put Taylor over him at this point because of that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing is the lack of running back is that it has to do with the the positional value of at that spot.
Yeah. We also have, someone says Sewell slander. I made a joke about him earlier. Now he does not make this list. He could have been an option. I didn't even have him on my honorable mentions. I did have Rashawn Slater on my honorable mentions. So another
I did
couple
have
of,
Slater.
do you have him on a list or honorable mentions?
Honorable mention. Do you want me to just go through all my honorable mentions, I guess?
I like doing this. I like kind of going a couple at a time. Let's just talk about him for a second.
Yeah, Slater. It could be Sewell or Slater. I don't really have a logical explanation of why I put Slater on my honorable mentions and not Sewell, but I just thought Slater was a little bit better last year. If by next season Sewell's better, I'm not going to be surprised. They're both really good talents.
Yeah. Another couple of players to go down the list. Roquan Smith, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Nate Hobbs, who was a good rookie for the Raiders last year. Any thoughts on any of them?
I had Smith on my list. I think he's a terrific player. I did not have Hobbs or Owusu-Koramoah, but they are well on their way. It's so hard to evaluate where I put slot corners. I did have one secondary guy on my list, so I guess we could go back and forth between those two. I had Antoine Winfield Jr., who I just feel like is a little more versatile, and he can kind of cover the slot too.
Yeah, he was also on my honorable mentions. He was again. It's crazy where I'm like, okay, so I made a category of like these are the guys who are definitely going to make the list, but aren't like top of the list, and like none of them made the list because we just had there was way more than I initially thought. Winfield was one of those guys. The last two honorable mentions: T. Higgins and Quinnen Williams as well. Higgins again, Bengals wide receiver core in good shape. It seems for quite some time with a guy who makes the list and a guy on the honorable mention, and Quinnen Williams, who's been very good with the Jets.
Yeah, I had them both on there. Higgins was my last receiver. He made the honorable mentions list. Felt bad not putting him on there, but it was tough. The one guy so I think the one guy I was looking at who was like, you know what? If this was made last season, he's on my list and he's probably in the top half of the draft. Devin White, I think, fell a lot. I think Devin White fell a lot last season. He still made my honorable mentions because I still think the ceiling's really high, but he struggled last season. And I had to take him off my list, and it's still a guy I really like.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been as high on White as other people have been. I think that there were some clear issues. I mean, Devin White, to make a baseball analogy, he's the guy who hits 200 or maybe even like 180, but will hit a bunch of home runs, right?
Yeah, he's the Miguel Sano of
right
NFL players.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's value in that. It's not like he's an invaluable player, but you gotta get up to the Mendoza line. You gotta get up to 200.
Yeah, that's fair. It was just such a disappointing season from him last season, and that's why he's got to hold off the list basically.
Yeah, but again, I think it's still fair to put him into honorable mentions because he does have the ability to make some splash plays, and that's what's exciting. That can be exciting about him. Do you have any other honorable mentions?
Like I said, Burns. I think we talked about him. Burns, Sweat, and Chase Young. I had 3 edge rushers, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. Also, we did not no AJ Dillon on this list. I'm sure that
AJ
one chattered
Dillon
beginning
did not make it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wild. I almost put him as a thumbnail, actually, went against that. But
did you debate any other quarterbacks?
No, I really didn't. I said, okay, this feels about right. I mean, you could have maybe gone with I guess, so I did kind of I made a second list where I put just Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, simply because of pure projection. But that's the only reason why. I don't think they've shown enough to, to take above established guys.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's fair. I guess, it'd be so tough to fit any of them on this list. We just have no idea if they're actually going to be good. It feels stupid to put Trevor Lawrence on here, and he's just as bad as last season.
Right. I mean, again, thinking about it, if I really was building a team, would I rather have him or Creed Humphrey? I'd probably just take a flyer on a guy who has elite potential at the quarterback position, probably. But part of it is for the list of the actual podcast itself, I wanted to pick guys who have been more established.
Did you debate any rookies like Hendrickson or anything like that, or not really?
Yeah, I did. I debated a couple of rookies, but again, I just felt like, can I really? Again, if Creed Humphrey is the guy who goes 25, I have to take someone who I've never seen play a single snap, then go on to taking them above a guy who I know can be a great player. Give me the guy I know.
Yeah, and I said Hendrickson when I meant Hutchinson, but yeah, I mean,
I know you meant. Yeah, I went with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree though.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I guess that's our list, Kyle. Good show. Took us exactly an hour to talk about it.
Yeah. We could have went probably a little further, but at the same time, 25 under 25 is symmetrical, so that works for
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I thought that was a fun list. It's fun to think about, and a lot of young talent in the league, like you were saying.
Yeah, so we got to figure out a show for next week. We'll do that at some point. It should be interesting. And Kyle, we talked about this a little bit pre-show. Your Mavericks still alive?
We're still alive for now. Doesn't seem like it's going to go much further. Of course, if they just win another game, that just means I have to pay for another ticket. But
Uh-huh.
hey, somebody's got to come back down 3-0 at some point, right? Maybe it is the Mavericks.
Yeah, why not? Why not Dallas? Should be interesting. Yeah, and then the Lightning are doing good, so this is exciting for me.
Yeah, you're what, conference finals?
Yeah, what sixth time in the past 8 years the Lightning have made the conference finals. It's an incredible run.
Yeah, you're spoiled at this point,
Oh,
honestly.
so spoiled. Yeah, no, this is the best.
So, who are you worried about, Carolina or New York at all?
And it's hockey. Either one could win, but I think that the Lightning should be favored over either one.
Like, I think Carolina's going to win the series, but I think I'd be more concerned about New York. I
Just
guess
because
that's
of Shesterkin.
that, and Panarin's one of the Panarin's a superstar basically, and it's
It'd be
like
nice to get revenge on Panarin after the Columbus sweep.
yeah, it's like if it's a guy, I'd rather face a guy. I like Aho, but at the same time, I'd rather face Sebastian Aho and Svechnikov or whatever his name is than face a guy like Panarin and have to deal with that every 2 minutes at a time.
Yeah, you can just call him Igor. Igor, it's nice when he has one of those guys with a tough last name has an easy first name.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, so I think it's I think it's one of those things where I think I just worry about the complete star power of New York just taking over a series at one point. I think Carolina's a better team and should win that series though.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you get to the conference final, you're going to play a good team. Kyle, I was at game 2 again in Sunrise against the Panthers when Nikita Kucherov feeds Ross Colton to score under 4 seconds left in the game to take the lead. And that was one of the most unique experiences I've ever seen live. The crowd was, there's a couple Lightning fans behind us, so we're all going crazy in the crowd. Very upset. I felt very bad, but was also very happy.
What's the Panthers crowd like now?
It was a bit quiet. That was my main takeaway. It's like this is not the part of it. It's like the speakers are like so quiet. Like it's like you got to invest in better speakers. That'll get you like the speakers. Like you can barely hear what's happening.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion Miami's a bad sports town,
I remember we talked about this last week.
and I'm continuing to say it. I don't.
Uh huh.
The Dolphins they represent, the Miami, University of Miami they represent, Miami Heat, fair weather. Miami Marlins basically don't exist, and Florida Panthers. I guess they're turning out a little bit now because they're winning, but just seems like it's not there.
Yeah. Question: what's it like in America sitting next to enemy fans? Over here, it's segregated. I think it's fun as long as like you don't take anything personal and like you're as an away fan, you accept that you're going to get some some smack talk back and you don't get offended by it. It's very fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've been basically an away fan my entire life.
Hmm.
And I've always gone to it with a certain etiquette. Like I cheer when my team does something well. I don't
Right.
really talk smack even when I played sports.
Hmm.
So it's not really something I just don't partake in it.
Uh
And
huh.
I don't like boo the other team really. So it's
Right.
not like anything that like I'm gonna cause problems, but I just try and handle, I try to handle my business personally, basically, sort of thing. I cheer my team and then I'd leave because it's just like we've heard the stories, but at the same time, I don't feel unsafe or anything like that. I have been to a match in England where it's kind of funny, where it's the police segregated section for the away team. I was at like a Chelsea soccer game and they did that, and it's just crazy how they managed to do this.
Yeah, the chat. How much beer gets tossed on you? Yeah, no beer got tossed
No,
on me. Right, it's not quite like you're not having to like fist fight people to get to your seats. Like it's for the most part very culture. One thing I hate that I will never do as an away fan is start a chant as an away fan. We'll never do it. I think that's the worst.
yeah, I mean, Red Sox fans used to do that. So I'd go to Red Sox games in
Hmm.
Seattle or Tampa, and Red Sox fans, I mean, not only are they global, they travel very well too.
Hmm.
So it's like you go to Tampa and it's 50-50 and you hear "Let's go Red
Right.
Sox" chants.
Hmm. Yeah, there's Florida in general. There's so many transplants that half the people here are from Boston. It seems like.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just an interesting dynamic, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just so accepted in American culture that it doesn't really bother people.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I also like that. No beers tossed. They're $10. Yeah, underselling it a bit. $10. I wish it was $10.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm assuming Kieran's in the UK, and I mean some of that stuff gets wild that you hear about where it's like during World Cups and stuff. I think it was like England and Russia were going at each other, and
Mhm.
that was something. I mean, I can't imagine anything like that happening here.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's unlikely. I guess that one, I think there was like a stabbing outside a Giants-Dodgers game, but that's, an exception, not the rule. Kyle, that's your
Dodgers
show.
also don't have the best part of town that their stadium's in, so
Yeah, might also be a factor. Kyle, good show today. Where can they find us on Twitter before we head out?
yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. Make sure to follow the account page that's at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes. Again, if you like to listen to your podcast, on the Sideline Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, that should be available. We will be very excited for next week when we talk about the Mavericks playing in the NBA Finals.
That'll be sweet. I'm looking forward to it. Mavs in
Mhm.
7.
If they come back and win, should we just do our entire podcast about that series?
I mean, we'll probably have to, right? I mean,
Okay,
that'd be the
that's
most
what we'll do.
important thing ever. But I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to happen. Knock on wood. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so if you're a football fan who does not like basketball, maybe root for the Warriors to close out the series. Should be fun. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
It's 106 days till football season. We're almost
Oh,
there,
wow.
man. Let's get it going.
Next week, it'll be double digits.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Looking
You almost
forward
said
to it.
you almost said single digits.
I almost did. I don't know why I was thinking that, but I'm still excited. We're almost there.
Yeah, just excited. What a fast forward ahead. Wish it was only single digits. Should be interesting. I was like, Mavs in 7 isn't a hotter take than some of Kyle's spicy takes. Probably true. We probably had hotter takes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Max Crosby 4th in the 25 under 25 draft is pretty spicy, but hey, I like to keep people on the edge, man. Got to keep them guessing.
Yes, keep people guessing, keep them on the edge. Thank you to everyone for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.